he's just my favorite person I've ever met. No offense to everyone else.
Yeah.
But the fact that this is the person that I get to hang out with every day forever is just like, I didn't know what I would want, but he did somehow. And that's kind of a flex. I am in love with a guy who does that sport on that actual field. Like, that is violent chess. That is gladiators without swords. That is dangerous.
What one person notices first isn't always what another sees. But when you really study Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, the concerts, the sideline games, the podcast cameos, the candlelit dinners, the 2 a.m. walks, you start to realize there's a second conversation happening. One spoken entirely through touch, glance, and gravity. Watch closely. What Taylor does with her hands around Travis speaks louder than any interview ever could. There's power in her poise, softness in her command, a perfect balance between control and surrender. And though Travis may be a titan on the field, it's clear that when it comes to love, she's calling the plays. Body language experts have said the truth of a bond lives not in the grand gestures, but in the quiet margins, the tilt of a head, the linger of a touch, the way a hand becomes a shield. For Taylor and Travis, those margins aren't silent. They hum. Take that first Chiefs game. Taylor in her custom red and white mini dress, part fandom, part fashion manifesto, standing tall in the private box. It wasn't just support. It was strategy. She wasn't fading into the role of player's girlfriend. She was declaring presence, showing the world she could honor his arena without losing hers. Then there was that New York dinner. Her in a blush pink mini dress with gold buttons, glowing like the city lights. Him in muted classics, letting her shine, but matching her vibe. Body language analyst Judy James called it style twinning. Not imitation, but synchronization. Their fashion, like their chemistry, found rhythm. She noted the details. Travis's hand folding protectively around hers. Taylor's arm tucked in, holding her bag close, yet walking with purpose. Her body language whispered, poised, private, but in control. She wasn't shrinking beside him. She was choosing how much of her power to reveal. And then came her New Heights podcast appearance, the ultimate merging of their worlds. As Taylor spoke about songwriting, passion, and creative fire, Travis didn't just listen. He anchored. His body leaned in, his gaze locked. You could see it. Two people orbiting the same truth. Power recognizes power, and love, in their case, looks a lot like partnership.
Publishing aspect of it has always been something I've had firmly in place, which is great because my songwriting is the core of why I do this, why I love it so much, and what I think has made anything happen in my career.
Travis called her the greatest songwriter of all time. His voice softened, his gaze lowered, that quiet drop of the eyes that says this isn't hype, it's reverence. It was a moment of humility, the kind that doesn't perform admiration, but feels it. A man fully aware he's sitting beside a legend.
Songwriter of all time.
That's very nice of you to say.
She met his gaze after a brief, teasing glance downward, the kind that lingers just long enough to make the air feel charged. They smiled. She shook her head, feigning disbelief, not because she doubted him, but because she understood him. Then, with a quiet confidence, she slipped her hand beneath his chin and leaned in. The gesture was light, almost playful, yet disarmingly intimate. A silent reassurance wrapped in flirtation. It said everything words couldn't. You're seen, you're mine, and I choose you right here, right now.
Says her boyfriend.
Their bodies spoke a fluent language. Open, uncrossed, leaning in when talking, touching when listening. It wasn't staged affection, it was unguarded connection. Then came the big moments, the stadiums, the award shows, the post-game chaos, when every camera lens was searching for cracks in the fairy tale. And yet, what some mistake for weakness, others see as strength. When Taylor lowers her head into the crook of Travis's arm, tilting slightly down, it's not submission, it's trust. It's the quiet act of feeling safe enough to rest. At the Super Bowl, she cupped his face in both hands and kissed him, fingers soft and splayed, shielding them just enough to make the moment theirs. It wasn't possession, it was reverence, a balance of strength and surrender. He held her. She didn't collapse. She leaned in, willingly, powerfully. Their handholds tell their own story, sometimes interlaced, sometimes loose, always intentional. Travis often brings her hand toward his chest, cupping it protectively, a wordless, "I've got you." But what's remarkable is her response. No clutching, no grasping, just calm acceptance. She allows the care, but never loses composure. And when the lights fade, walking out of an event, smiles dropping to something real, the small gestures remain. His hand at her back, her shoulder lowering just slightly, a rhythm of comfort. She isn't being shielded, she's being seen. When she lowers her gaze, it isn't to hide, it's to trust. When he leans in to block a flash or wind or noise, it's not control, it's devotion. Analysts describe their affection not as possessive, but as tender, the kind that says safe without saying a word. Even in moments of tension, when Travis stiffens under too much noise or Taylor shows a flicker of overwhelm, she steadies the scene. She laughs, redirects, takes back the room. Because Taylor's strength doesn't roar. It glows. It lives in the way she shields a kiss, the way her laugh trembles but never falters, the way her eyes dip, then rise again with a daring that feels like a promise. Her power is in her softness. Her softness in itself is power. In those moments, Taylor doesn't tame the alpha by matching force. She disarms him with grace. She draws him into softness without ever surrendering her power. Her vulnerability becomes its own kind of strength, quiet, magnetic, and commanding. Travis in turn shifts too, not into weakness, but into reverence. When she speaks, he listens. His gaze drops, his body language opens. In interviews, when the spotlight turns her way, he subtly steps back, sometimes literally a half step behind her, shoulders slightly tucked behind hers. That isn't random. It's protection. It's partnership. It's a man choosing to be the anchor, not the eclipse. Their newer public moments, the celebrations after games, the post-award photos, carry an ease that wasn't always there. Taylor looks softer now, her joy more unguarded, the smile touching her eyes. Travis, too, beams differently, his grin stretching wide, his hands twined with hers. Analysts note that where there once was a hint of self-consciousness, there's now fluid comfort. Their bodies don't pose together, they rest together. From the way they stand to the way they breathe, it's a duet of balance. Taylor allows moments of frustration or fatigue to show, but never in a way that costs her composure. Travis allows closeness, but still holds space for her to exist fully. Together, they create harmony, not dominance and submission, but power and presence. Taylor doesn't rule by command. She leads by energy. She softens him without diminishing him. Around her, the edges of his alpha become curved, steady, protective, tender. Many mistake her downward gaze for insecurity, but body language experts say otherwise. It's not fear, it's trust. In that famous Super Bowl kiss, she leaned in with her hands open, fingers soft, shielding the moment, but not hiding it. That's not retreat, that's claiming. That's intimacy built on safety. In interviews, Taylor doesn't just perform, she partners. When Travis speaks earnestly, she meets him halfway with a laugh, a nod, a hand under his chin, the smallest gesture that says, "I see you." Her power isn't loud or performative, it lives in nuance. Real influence doesn't need to shout, it feels like comfort. It looks like trust. She knows if she leans, he catches her. He knows her gentleness is not fragility, it's mastery. And that duality, the blend of dominance and devotion, of steel wrapped in silk, is what makes their bond so mesmerizing. Travis may command the field, but Taylor commands the room. And together, they meet in the middle, where strength learns to be soft, and softness proves it's strong. She's a woman who commands stadiums, who can hold 80,000 people in the palm of her hand with a lyric in a look. She's weathered scrutiny, built empires out of heartbreak, and turned her vulnerability into gold. Yet, what's most fascinating about Taylor Swift in love is not how she performs under lights, it's how she moves when the lights go dim. In her moments with Travis Kelce, she doesn't shrink to make room for him. She expands, and somehow, so does he. She lets him be strong, but never at the expense of her own solidity. Around her, his alpha energy softens. His power turns protective, not possessive. What begins as intensity always circles back to tenderness. You can chart their evolution through body language alone. The early days of cautious support, the gradual unveiling of trust, the growing ease of touch. The way her hips fall naturally beside his during walks. The way he lets him lead sometimes, only to stride ahead moments later. The way her eyes seek his, sometimes shyly, sometimes with that unmistakable spark of joy. Every smile she gives him carries both affection and quiet command. She melts him, yes, but she's also the center of gravity in their orbit. When they sit together, whether on a podcast set or at an award show, her posture remains open, assured. He mirrors her, often sitting just slightly behind, a half step in her shadow, not from deference, but devotion. Experts like Inbal Hanagi describe their physical openness, the uncrossed limbs, forward-leaning bodies, as the hallmark of authenticity. What Taylor has mastered is the rare balance between sensuality and sovereignty. She doesn't dominate, she draws in. She doesn't surrender her power, she decides when to yield, when to lead. Her gestures, a hand brushing his arm, a laugh that softens the air between them, the way her gaze lingers a second too long, all play into a dance where dominance isn't imposed, it's invited. And Travis? He doesn't resist. He meets her there. He supports, shields, admires. He's not threatened by her light. He amplifies it. That's the beauty of their bond. He's not afraid to be moved by her. He doesn't compete for control or spotlight. His strength is in knowing when to stand behind her with open arms. That's not submission. That's confidence. That's love secure enough to coexist with power. Imagine their private nights. No cameras, no flash, just dim light and quiet music. Her hand tracing the line of his jaw, his arm wrapped steady around her. Maybe she whispers first. Maybe he does. Maybe she leans into him. Maybe he draws her closer. But every version tells the same story. Two equals meeting in the middle. If their relationship were a song, it wouldn't be about conquest. It would be a duet, about surrender and strength, vulnerability and victory, harmony without hierarchy. Every glance, every touch, every shielding gesture hums that same refrain. This love isn't performative, it's lived, it's soft, it's fierce, it's theirs. And for those who study the photos and the fleeting looks, the message is unmistakable. She's calling the play, he's answering. Together, they're rewriting what strength looks like in love. One gaze, one heartbeat, one perfectly unscripted moment at a time.